Hey, Ron, that was Volt Typhoon, not Salt Typhoon. I don't know if I misspoke or you misspoke, but let's make sure we get the accurate intrusion set out there.
Hi there, it's Ron Gula from Gula Tech Adventures, and in this week on the show, we are going to have Virtual Ron interview Rob Joyce. Now, right now, Virtual Ron can't hear us, but Rob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ron. Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited that we're going to try this out, and once we start the interview, I'm not going to try to do anything except let Virtual Ron, like I said, who can't really hear us, I'm going to try to let him do all of the asking. Are you ready, Rob?
All right, let's see how it works.
All right. All right, hey, Virtual Ron, I want you to welcome Rob Joyce to the podcast today. I want you to tell a little bit people about Rob's background, and then start asking him questions from the document that we prepared that had the questions for Rob Joyce. Are you ready to go?
Welcome, everyone, to the Gula Tech Adventures podcast. I'm Ron Gula, and today I'm absolutely thrilled to have a true legend in cybersecurity with us, Rob Joyce. Rob, welcome to the show. For our audience, let me give them a sense of your incredible background. You spent 34 years at the NSA, including serving as the head of Tailored Access Operations, that's NSA's elite hacking unit, from 2013 to 2017. Then you went to the White House as Cybersecurity Coordinator and Special Assistant to the President, even serving as Acting Homeland Security Advisor. You came back to NSA as Director of the Cybersecurity Directorate until your retirement in March 2024. Now you've founded Joyce Cyber LLC, and you're advising some major players, including OpenAI, Microsoft, and even one of my portfolio companies, Sandfly Security. I'd love to start with something that's really at the heart of national cybersecurity strategy. How should the United States balance offensive versus defensive cyber policy? You've been on both sides of this equation at NSA, from your time leading Tailored Access Operations to running the Cybersecurity Directorate. What's your take on finding that right balance? What are your thoughts on how we should be approaching that strategic balance between going on offense and playing defense?
You want me to push the button?
Push the button, Rob.
All right. Hey, V-Ron. So I do have a lot of thoughts about offense versus defense. First off, I think you get more experience when you've been on both sides of that fence. You think differently, right? The offensive folks realize that it only takes small cracks and seams to have an advantage and to get the access you're looking for. Whereas defense, you really have to pay attention to all the details. So by moving back and forth across that membrane, you build different muscles and you've got better experience. But as far as, the latest push of, hey, we need to do more offense, I think the answer is yes and. Offense is an important part of a national strategy, but it can't be the sole leg. Just like a one-legged stool is not going to stand. I really think it takes all elements of national power. You're going to have a lot of diplomacy. You're going to have national policy. The senior most people in the government need to decide that they need to stop offensive intrusions into our critical infrastructure or into the national security apparatus. And I don't think we've had that national level decisive, we are going to use everything in our power to stop this. So that's kind of where I stand.
I'll be very curious what he comes back with. It takes about 10 seconds.
That's a brilliant perspective, Rob. I love that analogy about the one-legged stool. You really can't have a stable national cyber strategy without all those elements working together. And you're absolutely right about the experience factor. Having been on both sides gives you that unique insight into how attackers think versus how defenders have to operate. Let me follow up on something you mentioned about senior leadership and decisive action. You played a key role in developing Executive Order 13800 on federal cybersecurity during your White House tenure. How effective do you think executive orders like that are in actually shaping federal cyber priorities? And what does it take to get that kind of decisive national level commitment you're talking about? Because it seems like we keep having these policy discussions, but translating that into real action, that's the hard part, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. I think, the executive orders are an important tool, especially for driving government action. right? When the president signs something and says you must do, that starts a whole chain of events from everything from funding to follow-up to make sure that we've done what he's directed. But it's hard in that space because a lot of cybersecurity takes resources. It takes people, it takes expertise, and then it takes a focus. And, the executive orders start that, but if you don't follow through with all of that resourcing, it's kind of hard.
You hit on something I see all the time in the startup world too. You can have the best strategy in the world, but without proper resourcing and sustained focus, it just becomes another piece of paper.
That's the point. What did you want for
Good morning.
imagery?
Rob, let me shift gears and ask you about something that's been a hot topic lately, the Vulnerabilities Equities Process, or VEP, which you helped reform during your time at the White House. What lessons can be drawn from how the VEP has evolved, especially when it comes to balancing national security needs with the broader goal of securing everyone's systems? I know this is always a tricky balance. Do you disclose a vulnerability so everyone can patch it, or do you keep it for intelligence and offensive purposes?
Yeah, good question. The Vulnerability Equity Process, the VEP, is a recognition that you can't stray too much to one side or the other, right? As we've become so reliant on cyber infrastructure for national security, but also all our economic security, you've got to make sure that if there's heinous vulnerabilities out there, that they're well managed, well patched, and that you've done thoughtful consideration to what you need for that offensive side and the defensive side. The one thing that I would put out there about the VEP is whenever anybody talks about the VEP, there's always the phrase, the stockpile of vulnerabilities, right? That we have this massive stockpile. In the US, that's not the case, right? The ironic thing about the VEP is, when you have one vulnerability, the pendulum shifts and you now give up similar vulnerabilities because there's less need. But the reality is the half-life of a vulnerability is pretty short. So there's this constant hamster wheel effect that, at least on the U.S. side, we're put through. It's interesting. Nobody's ever satisfied with where the total outcome is on offense or defense, and I think that's a fair sign that we're probably doing it right.
That's such a fascinating insight, Rob. The idea that nobody being completely satisfied might actually be a sign you're striking the right balance. That's counterintuitive, but makes perfect sense. And you're absolutely...
Hey, can you generate some cyber imagery as we talk about some of these topics to go on the screen behind you?
Do you want to ask it some questions next?
Sure.
And you're absolutely right about that hamster wheel effect with vulnerabilities. The half-life being so short means you're constantly having to refresh your capabilities. Let me ask you about something that's really relevant to current events. How should the U.S. deter cyber attacks without escalating conflict? We're seeing persistent intrusions from nation states, but the challenge is responding in a way that's proportional and doesn't lead us down a path of cyber escalation. What's your thinking on where those red lines should be, and how do we make deterrence credible in cyberspace?
Well, for me, the red line's pretty clear. The Salt Typhoon intrusions into critical infrastructure, they're beyond the pale, right? They are intended to be cyber terrorism used at a time of escalating crisis, and that, it would panic the general population. So for me, that's already beyond the red line. As to what it takes to deter that, our discussion earlier, cyber doesn't deter cyber. It is one element of it, but it's really going to be the senior most level of the U.S. government deciding that, hey, we are going to make this a big deal. We are going to get this in front of other equivalent world leaders and make them stop. And the things we have that really are convincing are, the economic levers, sanctions and tariffs, diplomatic things, heck, even as far as, making them realize that we're serious about it. We don't expel people for cyber intrusions, right? But if we get a physical spy, we will push people out of an embassy. So using some of those traditional tools when we're unhappy with another country, that's the thing that's going to solve cyber intrusions.
I'm pretty happy with his questions.
Yeah, no, they're going well.
Rob, that's such a powerful point about Salt Typhoon. You're absolutely right that targeting critical infrastructure crosses into cyber terrorism territory. And I love your observation about the inconsistency in our response. We'll expel physical spies, but not cyber.
Hey, Ron, that was Volt Typhoon, not Salt Typhoon. I don't know if I misspoke or you misspoke, but let's make sure we get the accurate intrusion set out there.
You're absolutely right, Rob. My apologies. Salt Typhoon, not Cold Typhoon. Thanks for keeping me accurate on the threat actor names. That's exactly the kind of precision we need when we're talking about these. And targeting critical infrastructure being beyond the pale is spot on. And I really appreciate your insight about the inconsistency in our diplomatic responses. You know, we'll expel physical spies, but somehow treat.
Hey, Ron, can I ask you a few questions? I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about how fast AI is advancing. And I'm looking at what AI can do in red teaming and really no kidding cyber intrusions. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the AI advancements in the last several months and whether they concern you?
I'm not going to be surprised if he tries to pitch you one of our companies at this point, but we'll see.
That'd be great.
Ron, that's a fantastic question. And honestly, it's something that keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
The AI advancements we've seen just in the last 6 months are absolutely staggering. What really concerns me is the democratization of sophisticated attack capabilities. We're seeing AI that can automatically generate polymorphic malware, conduct social engineering at scale, and even perform automated vulnerability discovery and exploitation. From my investment perspective at Gula Tech Adventures, I'm seeing startups that can now use AI to conduct red team exercises that would have taken human experts weeks to plan and execute, and they're doing it in hours. That's incredible for defense, but terrifying when you think about what bad actors can do with the same technology. The really scary part is AI-powered spear phishing and deepfake technology getting so good that even security-aware people are falling.
Pretty much a superfluous
We're entering
answer.
an era where the traditional trust but verify approach might not be enough anymore. What's your take on how we should be preparing for AI-enhanced threats, especially from a national security perspective?
Oh, how embarrassing. As soon as Rob asked a question about how AI has impacted offensive cyber operations and projects like XBO, which have reached #1 on HackerOne's leaderboard, the audio cut out. I'm searching our logs for evidence of Chinese hackers or even a rogue AI to ensure they don't disrupt the interview any further. Back to you, Ron and Rob.
AI threat landscape, speed and scale. Rob, you've hit the nail on the head with speed and scale. That's exactly what makes this so different from anything we've faced before. The 24/7 relentless nature of AI attacks is going to fundamentally change the game. That XBOI agent dominating HackerOne is a perfect example of what keeps me awake at night. When an AI can outperform human bug bounty hunters at finding vulnerabilities, we're not just talking about incremental improvements, we're talking about a paradigm shift. What really worries me is that defenders are still largely thinking in human timescales while attackers are moving to machine timescales. But you're absolutely right about the flip side. And I'm seeing some incredible defensive AI tools in our portfolio companies. Companies like Scythe are using AI for breach and attack simulation, and Starseer is doing AI model auditing. The question is whether we can scale our defenses as fast as the threats are scaling. From your NSA experience, you know better than anyone that knowing your environment is critical. How do you think organizations should be adapting their security operations to handle AI speed attacks? Are we going to need...
Well, I do think that continuous red teaming by AI is going to be important because whether you like it or not, you're going to be red teamed by the adversaries. And so if you can get your helpful AI to find vulnerabilities and then close them before they get exploited, that's going to keep you ahead of at least one class of attackers.
Absolutely brilliant point, Rob. You're essentially talking about turning the tables, using AI to continuously stress test your own defenses before the bad guys do it for you. This is exactly what I'm seeing with companies like Scythe in our portfolio. They're doing continuous breach and attack simulation that never stops. Instead of waiting for quarterly pen tests, you've got AI constantly probing your environment, finding those gaps and giving you the chance to fix them. The reality is, if you're not red teaming yourself continuously with AI, someone else is going to be doing it to you maliciously. What I love about this approach is it flips the traditional security model on its head. Instead of being reactive, you're essentially running a permanent offensive operation against yourself to stay ahead of the curve. From your perspective, having run tailored access operations, how do you think organizations should balance the resources between this continuous AI red teaming versus traditional security operations? And do you think there are certain types of vulnerabilities that AI red teaming is particularly good at finding versus human expertise?
Well, I think the traditional cybersecurity capabilities are important. You have to have people that know their environment, know their technology, and are able to do the foundational cybersecurity work. But the AI layered on top of it will find all sorts of things like misconfigurations, but also the shadow IT that you don't know is there, right? That somebody has just initiated in some dark corner of your network that becomes a problem. I also think, as I mentioned, we've got to do more with behavior-based analytics. We've got to have logs all over the place. Salt Typhoon intrusions taught me that, the adversary is going to go to the places where you don't have great visibility, you don't have EDR, you don't have a lot of sensors, and they're going to find devices that they can live in. My favorite 2024 intrusion was ransomware that ran on a video camera that had a Linux kernel installed. And they went and encrypted network shares through that video camera. Really just a non-intuitive way of going after the network and attacking it, but something that is going to be inbounds as you get these AI agents that will look for any place they can land a beachhead.
He'll go all day. Are you good for more questions, or you want to ask him something else?
I'll ask him another one.
All right.
And see what he comes back.
Rob, that ransomware running on a video camera with a Linux kernel, that's absolutely brilliant from an attacker's perspective and terrifying from a defender's. It perfectly illustrates how AI-enhanced adversaries are going to find these non-intuitive attack paths that humans might never think to look for. You're spot on about Salt Typhoon teaching us that adversaries will always go where the visibility is weakest. They're like,
Yeah, I've got a question for you. As you think about LLMs and also machine learning, kind of old school AI, how do you break down the uses of those two technologies, and where should I be using ML, traditional ML versus LLMs in cybersecurity?
He's quickly Googling.
Great question, Rob. I think about this a lot when I'm evaluating companies at Gula Tech Adventures, and there's definitely a sweet spot for each technology. Traditional machine learning is absolutely killer for the foundational stuff. Anomaly detection, behavioral analytics, pattern recognition in network traffic. It's fantastic at finding deviations from normal baselines like unusual login patterns, network flows that don't look right, or endpoint behavior that's suspicious. Companies like Gray Noise in our portfolio use ML beautifully for distinguishing between internet background noise and actual threats. It's also great for
Hey, Viron, can you read the salmon-colored display behind you and tell me if that's really good grammatical English?
Eventually, I want to get them to they'll turn around and look, but it's fake.
He's thinking hard about it.
He's really hard. Rob, you broke it.
All right. If you can't answer that one, Viron, tell me, I want to know what Bryson Bort has in terms of kind of blackmail on you, because you keep bringing up Scythe in such glowing terms. I'm a fan of Scythe too, but he clearly has motivated you to keep praising him.
Uh-oh.
Ha! Rob, you caught me red-handed. Bryson doesn't have blackmail on me, but he does have something almost as powerful, a really solid product that actually works and solves real problems. Look, I'll be honest. When you're a VC and you find a company that consistently delivers on what they promise, you tend to get a little evangelical about it. Scythe genuinely impressed me because they took breach and attack simulation from being this expensive consultant-heavy process to something organizations can run continuously.
We'll see.
But you're absolutely right. I do sound like a Scythe fanboy sometimes.
That makes sense. I'm actually a fan of Sandfly Security, so you may want to pitch them a little as well.
They'll throw up the logo and stuff. We just did a video yesterday.
Oh, absolutely, Rob. The Sandfly Security is doing some really innovative work in the Linux threat detection space. What I love about Craig Rowland and the Sandfly team is they've solved a real problem that a lot of organizations struggle with. How do you get visibility into Linux systems without the overhead of traditional agents? Their agentless approach using SSH for forensics and threat detection is brilliant, especially for environments where you can't install agents, like embedded systems, legacy infrastructure, or highly regulated environments. They're particularly strong in cloud environments where you've got ephemeral Linux instances spinning up and down constantly.
Hey, thanks, Viran. I've really enjoyed being interviewed by you. It's impressive technology. We got to work on shortening some of your replies and tightening that up. But for my first virtual interview, this was pretty impressive.
Let's see what he says.
Rob, thank you so much for being such a fantastic guest. This was absolutely incredible, and getting to interview someone with your depth of experience from NSA Cyber Command and now Joyce Cyber LLC was a real honor. And you're absolutely right about tightening up my responses. I definitely get a bit verbose when I'm excited about cybersecurity topics. I'll work on being more concise while still hitting the key points. Your insights on AI threats, Salt Typhoon, and the future of cyber defense were exactly what people need to hear right now. Thanks for keeping me honest on the details and for sharing your expertise with the Gula Tech Adventures audience. Hope we can do this again sometime. Maybe we can dive deeper into AI red teaming or talk about your work with OpenAI and Microsoft.
Wrap it there.
Let's do it. So, hey, Rob, thanks so much for coming on. Any thoughts just after talking to Viran here?
No, this is really impressive. You know, I look at AI constantly. I, like you, play with the toys, and I am always blown away. And, you know, if you told me we could wire this together a year ago, I would have thought you were crazy. Yeah. It held up well. It's only going to get better. I think, you know, that's the AI fanboys always talk about. This is the worst AI will be. And that's both promising and terrifying to me. So
that's
great
awesome.
Stuff.
It's like, it's not how well the bear dances, right? It's the fact that the bear dances, right? So that's good stuff. All right, Rob, thank you very much. Anything coming up you want to share with people who watch the show?
No, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing comes straight to mind.
Right.
I've got a number of talks that'll drop on the web.
Awesome.
Follow us on LinkedIn and you'll see stuff.
Awesome. Right. Well, if you don't know how to contact Rob, we'll put it in the show notes. He's very active on X and LinkedIn. He advises many companies and whatnot. But look, thanks for everybody watching today. And I hope you found this interesting. If you want to play with this kind of technology on your own, the company's called Replicant, one of our portfolio companies. I actually use it to entertain my nieces and nephews. I use it to interview former heads of the TAO. Who knows where we're gonna be going with this in the future? But thanks for watching. Everybody have a great week.
Yeah.